Let's take the holiday setting. You're with your family. You have grandparents and parents and children. When you get vaccinated and you have a vaccinated group and you are in an indoor setting, you can enjoy, as we have traditionally over the years, dinners and gatherings within the home with people who are vaccinated. And that's the reason why people should, if they invite people over their home, essentially ask and maybe require that people show evidence that they are vaccinated.
Joining me now, my friend Mike Slater. Mike, I know you're big on Christmas as I am. What is going to be the Slater policy for checking those vaccination cards before you can, celebrate the birth of Jesus?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to keep the disgusting vermin children out back, of course, because they're too diseased to be near us because they're not eligible yet. What a sick, disgusting display. New York Times, someone wrote like a advice question, and the reporter literally wrote back, the kids should stay outside, wear masks if they must come inside to eat. Quickly put the mask back on and then stay away from the older relatives and go back outside. This was like last month. Insane still.
Mike, you have a special on the 1st with Alex Berenson, and it has something to do with Fauci, does it not?
Yeah, Fauci's not a good person, and he's been wrong a lot for a long time. There's a clip that was recently released of Fauci in 1983. This was the beginning of the AIDS pandemic, and this is how Fauci was known, right? He was like one of the top guys in the beginning of the whole AIDS thing. This is how he got the Presidential Medal of Freedoms, because of his work with the AIDS epidemic. And he posited that AIDS can spread through casual contact, not just sexual intercourse or drug needles. And he was wrong and created a ton of panic because of it. And he was wrong. And my suggestion, as is the great Alex Berenson's, is that he is just as wrong today about COVID as he was about AIDS back in 1983. But that's, how government works. You fail up.
Let's talk about COVID for a brief second, even though it's a Christmas special, because you've done the research on it. What do we believe about the spread of COVID? Because, look, it's become a glib thing. People say, I say it all the time, but I'm genuinely curious. We do have these huge football games, 100,000 people in a stadium, people packed in bars and restaurants in places like Florida with no COVID spike. How does this thing move around? What do you believe?
Yeah, I believe that we are arrogant, conceited people who don't put God first, therefore elevate nature and science to the place that God used to be. And we think that we can control a virus, that we have the power and the science and the technology to manipulate things and people and vaccines in order to beat a virus. And the truth is, we're absolute idiots. We are literally in the cave, the Stone Age, of understanding how viruses start, how they spread, and how they interact in people's bodies. We know nothing. This is a sign of our incredible arrogance to think that we can stop the spread and flatten the curve. Alex Berenson, one of his lines is, the virus is gonna virus. That's just what it does. That's what viruses do. They act randomly. Sometimes they're super spreader events, sometimes they're not. And to think that we can control that is the height of arrogance. But it's a sign, sorry, to bring it back to Christmas, it's the sign of our pagan culture, right? So, real quick, there's a lot of flood stories in different cultures all around the world. But in all the different flood stories, the gods, the god or gods in charge of it, are powerless. Maybe they start the flood, but they can't stop it. It's out of the gods' control. Nature is all powerful, even above the gods. But in the biblical flood story, God starts the flood, ends the flood. All of nature is entirely within his control. We used to have that worldview, that God is in control. Now we don't, because we eliminated God. So now we put nature and government in control. And here's what we see.
Is Christmas about Santa?
Santa's entire verbal contribution to our society is ho, ho, ho. He is it is shameful that we even consider ourselves a Christian country, that we've elevated this pagan idol. I feel very strongly against this concept of Santa, and he is not in the Slater home. He's a cheap, pathetic substitute for God, right? He's supposed to be all-knowing, right? He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. Well, so is the real God. But that's not a works-based religion, right? Like Santa only gives you gifts if you're good. But then even if you're not, he still gives you gifts, so he's a liar as well. God can give you eternal life even when you don't deserve it. I think Santa, also telling our kids to believe in Santa, I think it primes kids to think that Santa, the Tooth Fairy, and God are all things that you believe when you're a little kid, when you're immature, when you don't know better, and then you grow up, you grow out of them. And I think it primes people for an atheism. It did for me. And I don't think there's any reason why we need to elevate Santa above that of Batman, right? My kids know Batman's not real. It's a fun story. And same thing with Santa. We don't need to make a huge deal about it, but I don't know why we need to elevate it to the position of God.
Okay, let's talk about the Slater family and your Christmas traditions. What do you eat? What do you do? What is Christmas Day like? Are you one of these weirdo freak families who open their gifts on Christmas Eve? I'll never abide by that. But anyway,
Wow!
What does the Slater family
Is that
do
right?
on Christmas?
Wait, why the conviction against the Christmas Eve present?
Here's why I don't like it. See, we used to open our pajamas. We get a set of pajamas, even though I don't even wear pajamas. We'd open those on Christmas Eve. But here's why I don't like it. You've waited all this time. Why can you not wait one more night? It's the anticipation that makes the next day so sweet. Don't burn it on Christmas Eve. But anyway, what is this? In all seriousness, what is the Slater tradition?
I like it. You're right. Opening up present day before robs Christmas of some of what it is. Here's what I want to say, and it's pretty interesting. You know what? You spoke of this on Thanksgiving. You talked about how. What did you make for Thanksgiving? You didn't make turkey, is the point. What did you make?
We made beef tenderloin and fettuccine Alfredo and berry crumble, and it was wonderful.
There you go. And your point was that you don't have to be a slave to bad traditions that everyone hates. Well, like making turkey. No one likes turkey, and we know that because no one's eating turkey today. And I think the same thing is true with traditions. I'm a pretty new dad. Our oldest is 5, and we have 3. We can make our own traditions, and we're still in the process of doing that in the Slater family, where I don't have to have the same traditions that my family had because we weren't Christians growing up. We were Creasters. We went to church twice a year, Christmas and Easter. We were Creasters. I had no idea what the gospel was. I had no idea. We'd go on Christmas, the midnight service, and I'd be tired, and I'd just hear about like barnyard animals, and I had no clue what Christmas really was. And I don't want those same traditions that we had growing up. My parents did the best they could, but we can do much, much better. So we're still, that's like a dodge of an answer. We're still in the process of figuring it all out, but it's not materialistic and it's not pagan. I'll tell you that.
Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.